We are following the breaking news of a shooting on the campus of Florida State University. Now, it is still very much a fluid situation with local police and the FBI on the scene, among other law enforcement. But here's what we know. At least 6 people have been hospitalized. No word of any fatalities. Among those 6, 1 is in critical condition. The rest are serious. 1 person has been taken into custody. Our own Tom Winter called it a relatively self-contained situation. Police have told him there are no indications as of now that this is a large-scale event. We do know that the incident happened near the campus student union. A shelter-in-place order was issued for the campus. Classes have been canceled for the day. And we just got new video. Here it is, showing the moments right after that shooting alert went out. You can see students, backpacks on, sprinting down the street as sirens blare loudly in the background and emergency responders come to the scene. There's another chilling new video. It shows the situation that unfolded inside of a campus building. Lines of students walking down the hall. They've all got their hands in the air. Joining us now, MSNBC medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. Here with me on set, former senior FBI official Christopher O'Leary and NBC's Emily Aketa, who has been following this story for us. Emily, bring us up to date on any other information that we know about this.
Yeah, so as you just mentioned, within the last few minutes, we are learning that 1 suspect is in custody. But I can tell you what is happening right now. Law enforcement continuing to go building to building, door to door, to make sure that there are no other threats and to make sure there are no other victims in this. Also happening right now, the nearby hospital continuing to actively receiving patients as we see the number of victims continue to climb. The latest number, 6 people injured, and Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare telling us that at least 1 person is in critical condition, the rest of those injuries in serious condition. As you mentioned, we still don't know if anyone has died in the wake of this incident that happened near the student union, which is the heart of this sprawling campus, nearly 500 acres in the heart of Tallahassee. The student union with multiple floors. It's a gathering place, a community center for not just students, but also faculty. You can see the footage showing the chaos on the scene on the ground there as students running from the scene, even seen running through traffic there. It sits between 2 pretty busy roadways. One student described seeing a student being carried out on a stretcher, she said. Also, some people being transported, carried in office chairs. This all comes since the first alert that we got from FSU, coming just right after 12 o'clock noon, 12:01, saying an active shooter has been reported in the area of student union. Police are on scene or on the way, continue to seek shelter and await further instructions. Lock and stay away from all doors and windows and be prepared to take additional protective measures. In terms of those alerts, at last check, the shelter in place appears to still be intact, though, as we've reported, 1 person is in custody. Other universities in the area also saying they're monitoring the situation.
So, Chris, let's take these one by one, and let's start with the alleged shooter, or at least the suspect, 1 person taken into custody. What's happening, assuming, and we don't know anything about this person's condition, but assuming that they're able to talk to this person, what are they doing? And assuming they know the identity, what are they doing?
First of all, they're trying to positively identify the individual, who they are. Do they have an affiliation with the campus? Do they have other connections that we should be concerned about? Is there a link to terrorism, whether international or domestic? What's the ideology? What drove them to do this? Or is it a grievance that the individual had that built towards mobilization, towards violence? So they're going to be looking at that. They'll also look to interview the individual to find out if there is some kind of ongoing threat. Was he acting alone, or is this something that we should still be concerned about? Because as has been reported, there are some reports out there that there may have been more than 1 shooter, which is fairly common in these events because the victims tend to think there's more than 1 individual carrying out this violence. So I've been involved in responses to school shootings, and you're often looking for additional subjects, which is why all the law enforcement that has surged to the scene is clearing every room on that campus to, number 1, look for any individuals who might also be involved, any tools that he used, and I say make an assumption that it's a he, that the shooter used during the attack, but also looking for victims or individuals just hiding and still sheltering in place.
What would they have had to know, or what do they have to know to say, law enforcement officials, to our Tom Winter, we believe the situation is contained, using that word contained?
Well, I would think they would have cleared the school in its entirety and do a secondary search. So you do an initial clear, a tactical clear, and then you
Of that building?
of the
Entire campus?
Of the campus. I mean, it's really, and it's a massive campus. You cannot make any assumptions in this case. Obviously, you're going to prioritize with where the incident happened, but then you're going to go out in concentric circles and look at every room that you can get access to, and it has to be, thorough.
It's highly unusual for someone not to have a footprint, either on social media or some sort of electronic footprint. How easy is it generally to get access to that kind of information once you know who the person is? Fairly easy. So again, finding out what the ideology is, that'll help drive investigators to certain social media platforms or chat rooms to find out what they were talking about. Also getting access to their actual devices, whether handheld or home computers, getting search warrants to be able to go into those things. And we can really exploit all that information and get a pretty good picture of who they are and what drove them to do this. Dr. Patel, listen, we have a major metropolitan hospital there. Talk about the training and their ability to respond to an emergency situation like this.
Yeah, Chris, sadly, this is something that we're used to, and especially in like a level 1 trauma center like Tallahassee Memorial, where we've heard that many of the victims have been taken. And that is shifting into kind of rapid disaster protocols and also coordinating with law enforcement officials. That's something that hospitals like TMH should become quickly adept at. And that happens quickly in the sense that they know that the doctors and nurses and teams responding have to triage patients in order to kind of make sure that they have a high survival rate, meaning they will quickly assess, is this the type of injury where even if they're in critical condition, that they would be able to likely have a favorable outcome, because that time spent on that patient means that that's time they can't spend on another patient. So that's actually what's happening, kind of a literally kind of minute by minute assessment of the patients, their status. And then I would just say that a lot of what happens inside the hospitals and the emergency rooms and the area around the emergency room is just everybody who can't be anywhere near the campus coming to the hospital to kind of find out if their loved one is part of the team that's been taken in, if their loved one has made any contact. And I think this is where there's that critical coordination with law enforcement. You could imagine being a friend, family, or parent that has someone at that school. You can't get in touch with that student or faculty member. You can only imagine the emotions, and you can't go near the campus, as you heard. So you do end up tending to be, a lot of what we end up doing is kind of seeing people in the waiting rooms outside the hospitals. And then what we see is kind of weeks to months later, Chris, unfortunately, all the mental health effects. And it might even be just people listening to our words right now, where this is sending shockwaves to people who have been going through this. As you know, so many mass shooting events, so many active shooter events that we've seen just in this year alone are kind of reminding people and kind of bringing up those memories. Yeah, and it brings to mind the EMS, the emergency responders who are medically trained, because I was talking to a student earlier who was with, he estimated about 40 other students, and he said he was very calm, but not everybody who was with him was. Right. He talked about people having panic attacks. And so they are trained, obviously, in a situation like that. They're on the ground. When they went outside, he said he saw people being tended to by EMS who, I guess for better, but also for worse because of the situation, are trained to deal with these kinds of situations. They are, and so are law enforcement, by the way. This is something that has become kind of a standard for training in law enforcement, EMS, first responders of all kinds. And you're starting to see on some schools, Chris, also having the faculty and staff trained to do the same, because it's your response. We kind of say this in disaster and trauma settings. Our ability to remain calm kind of helps everyone around us remain calm. That's a skill that you have to learn. And as you mentioned, for better or for worse, this is something that everybody who's on scene has to have experience with.